Light a candle to push back the night. There's safety within the fire's light.
Storyteller. I summon you, tell my story. Got grottos, no echoes.
A cave of no echoes. A fireside tale of isolation, silence, and the unknown. Jen could no longer feel his fingers. Wrapped in thick furs and leather, his body should have been warm, but after weeks in the endless snows of the Khingan Mountains, the cold had settled into his bones like an unshakable fever. The storm had consumed them. There had been 24 soldiers when they left the fort, pursuing the remnants of a Mongol raiding party that had pillaged villages on the border. They were skilled riders, hardened warriors of the Ming dynasty, but even they could not fight winter itself. At first, it had been small losses. A man caught frostbite too severe to continue. Another's horse collapsed beneath him, frozen in its tracks. Then came the mistakes. Men separating, wandering into white nothingness, calling out for help until their voices vanished in the howling wind. By the time they found the cave, only 6 remained. Jen's boots crunched through the knee-high drifts as he squinted through the thick snowfall. He could barely see the cave entrance until Bao, the only man still strong enough to stand tall, pointed toward the black opening. "There!" Bao shouted over the wind. Jen didn't hesitate. He trudged forward, teeth gritted, breath a ragged rasp. Shelter. Finally, they would survive, wouldn't they? The warmth of the cave was deceptive. It wasn't truly warm, but without the wind, without the endless bite of snow, the mere absence of suffering felt like comfort. One by one, the surviving soldiers collapsed onto the hard stone floor, panting, pulling their cloaks tighter. Jen leaned against the wall, taking deep, steadying breaths. He glanced at the others. Bao, Lei, Jiang, Shun, and Wei, the last of the 24. Jiang dropped his bag and stretched, his metal canteen slipping from his fingers. It struck the stone floor and made no sound. The silence was instant, suffocating. Jen's skin prickled. He looked up sharply at the others, seeing the same unease mirrored in their faces. The canteen rolled across the floor. Still, no noise, no echo. "This place," Bao's voice trailed off. "It's wrong." Wei stepped forward and stomped his boot on the ground. "Nothing." Jen's chest tightened. He opened his mouth to speak, then hesitated. What if my own voice doesn't come out? But when he whispered, "What is this place?" the words came clearly. Only they died too quickly. A cave should have had echoes, the sound should have carried, bouncing off the stone walls. But here, the sound was devoured, gone, as if it had never existed. A heavy silence settled over them, like the cave itself was listening. Wei swallowed. "We should leave." Bao exhaled, rubbing his arms. "And go where?" The storm outside still raged. The entrance was already half buried in snow. There was no leaving. So they built a fire. They lasted 3 more days. The blizzard never stopped. The entrance to the cave disappeared completely, buried beneath thick, unyielding ice. Food was dwindling. The firewood they brought was almost gone. "We need more," Jiang muttered, staring into the flames. "If the fire dies, we die." No one argued. "I'll go," Wei said, standing. "I'll find something deeper inside." Jen didn't stop him. None of them did. Wei took a torch and disappeared into the dark. He never came back. At first, they thought he had gotten lost, but when they ventured deeper, calling for him, searching for footprints, there was nothing. Not a trace. Not a single footstep in the dust. As if he had never existed. The next to vanish was Lei. Then Jiang. They had been awake, talking, watching each other, but when Jen blinked, they were gone. No sound, no struggle, only silence. The cave had swallowed them. Jen's thoughts spiraled into fear and madness. What was happening? Was something taking them? Or were they simply ceasing to exist? By the 4th week, only Bao and Jen remained. "We have to stay awake," Bao whispered. His voice sounded so small in the dark. Jen nodded, gripping his dagger. His hands trembled, his skin pale and stretched tight over sharp bones. They had no food. His stomach had long since stopped hurting. Now it was just an empty, hollow space inside him. The fire burned lower. "There's nothing left to burn," Jen croaked. Bao inhaled sharply. "Then this is it." And the fire died. Darkness. For the first time, true blackness consumed them. Jen couldn't see his own hand in front of his face. His breath quickened. "Bao," he whispered. "I'm here," came the soft reply. They sat in the pitch black, their bodies pressed against the cave wall. At first, Jen could still hear Bao's breathing, the shift of his clothes, the faint sound of his heartbeat, then only his own. Then Jen was alone. Then movement, a soft shift of air, a presence. Then eyes, dozens of them glowing in the pitch black. Wolves, Jen's breath shuddered out of him, his body stiff. If he moved, would they attack? He stayed perfectly still. His mind was screaming, but he forced himself to remain motionless. What were they waiting for? Then one stepped forward. Its jaws clamped onto his coat, not tearing, pulling. Let them. They dragged him across the stone. He felt the cold creeping into his bones. The stale air turned sharp, crisp, then light, blinding, brilliant daylight. The wolves had dug a path through the snow. Jen collapsed into the frost, gasping. Then voices, shouts, a rescue party. The wolves vanished into the trees. Jen was saved, but something was wrong. He didn't realize it at first, not until someone spoke to him and he felt something was missing. Their words were clear, loud, but they had no echo. Not his voice, not footsteps, not even the wind. The world had sound, but Jen would never hear an echo again. And deep in the woods, beneath a sky untouched by time, the cave still waits, listening, waiting, for the next traveller, for the next sound to swallow whole.
To be featured in an upcoming show, share your story in the comments below.
Oh, crap. Watch the next story to keep the flame going.